It is my privilege to get to introduce our next part of the program here. And we're going to talk a little bit about teacher certification. And realizing that you're probably, in most cases, not the people who hire teachers, but a lot of times you get the responsibility of being the one that gets to make teacher assignments or work around those teacher assignments at least to schedule the classes. And so we feel like that it's important for you to have an understanding of career and technical teacher certification requirements, how teachers certified in career and technical education. And so we've brought in the A team to do that. I want to introduce you to Erika Garza. Erika is a Cte educational specialist at Region 13 here in Austin. Erika is a former family and consumer science teacher, taught for 7 years, and she's been an educational service specialist with Region 13 for 3 years, supporting new teachers and helping them be successful. She thoroughly enjoys helping the interns be successful in their career change into education. And then new with us at Region 13 is Amy Martin. Amy over here is educational specialist also with Region 13. And Amy completed her bachelor's degree from the University of Texas with a degree in public relations. And after college, Amy entered the corporate world and spent 3 years working for a law firm that allowed her the opportunity to train employees on how to use technology, which led to her pursuit and passion of teaching. Amy transitioned into teaching with the Austin Independent School District, where she taught robotics, web design, and technology careers for the last 5 years. During her time with Fillmore Middle School, she worked with a positive behavior, interventions, and support committee and worked with the staff to create campus-wide interventions. Presented at STEM nights and coached a robotics team. And currently, Amy is educational specialist at Region 13, training teachers in career and technical education. So we are proud to have them, and they're going to answer all of your questions about teacher certification.
Okay. I think, can you guys hear me on this mic? Yes, Amy can take that one. Thank you. Thank you for such a great introduction. So as he mentioned, we are with Region 13. Okay. My voice is pretty loud, so I don't want it to be too loud. Okay. We are with the Education Service Center, Region 13, here in Austin. And so what we do is teacher certification. We work with school districts and try to make sure that the properly certified teachers are in the classroom and they're eligible to be there. And then we also train people who are going from industry jobs or other professions and making that transition into the education world. So we try to make that as smooth as possible. We're going to kind of just go through some ins and outs of certifications. If you have questions, definitely raise your hand. I know we did this presentation for the admin group next door, so I'm going to try to tailor it a little bit more to meet the needs of whatever questions you guys have. Just to have a table discussion with your colleagues that are sitting at your tables, think about what certification areas do you see there be a need. Let me rephrase that, sorry. What certification areas do you struggle to fill in your school districts? So thinking about what areas do you see maybe teacher turnover in your district or where you're trying to meet the needs of your students? And then do you know what certification requirements are for those areas if the teacher calls and inquires about a job posting? So that may not directly affect you guys, but as far as from the counseling perspective, do you know what the certification requirements are for a teacher to be certified in a specific area that you may have a deficit in your district? For example, health science may be an area that you guys, how many of you guys have health science openings that you're trying to, okay. So that can be a discussion that you have. Do you know what the requirements are for certification? And then what are the areas that you tend to struggle with? So let's take about 2 minutes, talk with your table mates, and then we'll come back together as a group. What are some certification areas that you feel your district is having a trouble filling? And then do you know what the certification requirements are for those teachers? Amy, we'll just ask for, maybe somebody will share. This is going to be very awkward because it's not the same. Oh, okay. Okay. I need to read from here, but I don't like that. I'm going to try. All right, if you want to start wrapping up your conversations, and I'll get your attention in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you guys for your discussions. Would anyone kind of like to share some thoughts or ideas around where your district is struggling to find teachers and what certification areas that would be in? Amy can take the mic to you. Anyone like to share some of their discussion? Oh. Did you?
Good morning. One of the struggles that we're having is getting a practicum going. And we were talking about, sometimes the principals and the administration will hire a teacher who has a degree, let's say, for instance, in business. Mm-hmm. But just because you have a business composite doesn't mean you could teach everything. Mm-hmm. Let's say you have computer maintenance. Mm-hmm. Well, that needs to be a business teacher specifically for IT. If they got a composite in business education, they can't teach that. Mm-hmm. So, it's as much as, we say that administrators as counselors, mm-hmm. we actually we're the ones sometimes providing that information to our administrators. I had to find that out myself because my admin didn't even know. Mm-hmm. Because, we're all coming in new sometimes and, we need to learn. But,
okay.
That was one of my
Okay,
situations.
well, that's a great thought and reflection because we're actually going to be sharing the teacher assignment chart in Chapter 231 with you guys, and we're going to go through and show you how do you match up teacher certifications and what courses are they eligible to teach. We'll kind of go through that in a step-by-step process so that way you can be a little bit more aware and informed. We get a lot of calls at the Service Center about that same question from all different audiences, so I completely understand where you're coming from there. So we'll definitely share some resources that will make that a lot easier for you to be able to interpret and take back to your admin. So thank you for that. We know that there are some certification areas that are hard to fill, so we will, like I said, we will go through and give you some information, so you go back armed with some information to be able to know how to interpret that Chapter 231 and the teacher assignment chart. So we do want to reiterate or state, so there is no single certificate called CTE. We do get a lot of calls at the Service Center. I need a CTE certified teacher. Okay, well, what certification areas specifically? So there is no certificate that actually says CTE. There are lots of different certificates under CTE, but CTE is the big umbrella term. And then all of the ones that are underneath the umbrella, these are all the certification areas that fall under the career and technical education. So we've got ag, marketing, technology, business, family consumer science, health science, and then trades and industrial education. So trades and industrial education is very broad. That's going to be your auto tech, your welding, your cosmetology, your criminal justice. There's lots involved with the TIE or trades and industrial education. So we're going to kind of just go through. This is the page that the lady in the back was talking about. So these are going to be your two best resources for looking at who can teach what. What are the teachers eligible to be able to teach? So if you go to the TEA website, you can find this as well. I'm going to show you what it looks like, and then I'll give you an opportunity if you have your device to go there. And let me pull this up. Oh, yes. Open it. Okay. It's different than the computer next door. It's taking it a minute. It's a PDF. Yeah. Where did it pull up? Oh, there it goes. It's coming. Okay. So this is the teacher assignment chart. I'll show you in a minute where to find it on the TEA website. But you would go to, we're going to go to part 2. It is 87 pages. So this link directs you to the career and technical education assignments, which is what we're going to be looking at. And then it starts with the career preparation classes, and then it'll go into agriculture, food, and natural resources, and goes through all the certification areas. So it may be a little bit hard for you guys in the back to see, but on the left-hand side there, you'll see the assignment. So these are the listing of courses that fall under that cluster, that certification. On the opposite of that, you're going to see what certificates are eligible to teach those courses. And this is really going to be a lifesaver when someone calls us and asks us this. This is what we're looking at ourselves as a teacher assignment chart. So it has every single area for CTE and then what the courses are and how they're eligible, who's eligible to teach what. And so this is going to be a great resource. Let me go back to the presentation and show you from the TEA website how to get there. But this PDF is not wanting to work with me. Okay, hold on one second. Now it won't scroll down. There we go. All right, so from the TEA website, under the certification, you'll see assignment information, and then you'll see the teacher assignment chart PDF. That's the form that we showed. You can also put it into Google teacher assignment chart, and it is a PDF. So let's go ahead and go there, and then that way I can answer any questions that you have about certification. So if you have your own device, go ahead and locate the teacher assignment chart. And then if you have any specific questions about certifications, we can talk about those now. I'm going to give you a minute to pull that up, and I'm going to go back to mine, and then that way if you have any questions, we can go through that. The business and IT was a good example, but just be thinking about your district needs, and if you're trying to think about where you could cross-reference teachers before we go a little bit further. Does anybody have any specific questions as you're navigating? Yes. So on the, let me pull it up. Where did it? TA. Let me show you. It's taking it a minute to get there. On the TEA website, if you go to the career and technical education section, you can see how the certificates have changed and what the most of ours have gone to 612 on the certificates instead of 812, and for the core classes it's 712. But if you click on career and technical education under curriculum, you'll be able to see this is the innovative course listing is here as well. But this has a lot of great information here. And then we're going to click on, let me find the, you can also access the teacher assignment chart from here. Let me see if it's here. Well, didn't take me there. Hold on. I know. I'm not on my computer. I have everything bookmarked, so I'm just looking where to see. Let's see. Yep. Yeah, that just shows the certification, what the certification requirements are.
Right there, career and technical education teacher certificate requirements. Third line.
Yeah, that's where I pull it. There we go. So this, for CTE specifically, it'll tell you what if it's changed to what certificate's being eliminated. So if you're looking for a crosswalk there and what tests need to be taken. Is that what you were looking for to answer that question? Okay. Does anybody else have any questions about the teacher assignment chart specifically before I start talking about?
Can you speak to the work-based learning piece?
Sure. We're going to, yeah, we're going to actually talk about that. Yeah. Okay, so the teacher assignment chart, I mean, if you can print a copy of it, have it in a binder. I actually have that on my desk as a binder. I have it bookmarked on my computer. It's just a really great resource if you are trying to fill classes and see who can teach what. And you can always, of course, call the service centers, and we're happy to help you as well. For general certification information, this may not all be pertinent, but I want to kind of just run through and give you some specifics, and then we'll talk about the work-based learning and some other requirements for CTE. Specifically, so how do I get a teacher CTE certified? So one thing to note is that if a teacher already holds a standard certificate, they can become certified in one of the CTE areas that are listed here. So agriculture, food and natural resources, business and finance, family consumer sciences, and technology education. So if you do have a business, right now a business education teacher who needs to teach some of those IT or information technology courses, they could, if they're already certified and hold that standard, they can go and challenge the technology education test and therefore become eligible. So as you're looking at the teacher assignment chart, if they already hold that standard, you could have the teacher go and challenge that other test. These are all the areas that they could challenge the test if they hold a standard and then become eligible to be in the classroom under that certificate. So they can add these areas to their certificate. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay.
Is technology education and technology applications the same thing?
No, they're two different ones. So technology education, the difference there is technology education is more, it has the architecture and construction component and also the engineering component is more seen in the technology education. We were actually just talking about that in the hallway. Technology applications is more of the basics of the computer. That test is EC12, and so it'll cover a broad range of learner needs on that exam, and it's more of the basic computer skills and knowledge there. So those are two different ones. You have to really be careful. That is a tricky area as far as seeing who's eligible to teach what courses. Okay, so that's something important to note. And then for our CTE certificates, so also, if we're talking about a brand new teacher who's not, doesn't hold any certificate for agriculture, business, family consumer science, and technology education, for initial teacher certification, so if you know someone who's interested in getting into education or you need a teacher, there's the requirements that follow. So for initial certification, we are looking for that bachelor's degree. So they have to have conferred a bachelor's degree. And in whatever specific area, if it's agriculture, food and natural resources, we're looking for 24 hours on transcript, with 12 of those hours being upper level for that eligibility purposes. So they do need to have a degree that is related to that content area, and then we're looking for 24 hours on transcript with 12 of those upper level. So this is a great thing for you guys to know, or networking wise, if you know people who are wanting to get into initial teacher certification. They do have to go through an approved educator preparation program, and then they take 2 exams, a content exam and then the EC12 pedagogy and professional responsibilities exam as well. And that's for that initial teacher certification. And then there are CTE certifications that require prior experience. That's going to be our health science, our marketing, and any of those trades and industrial education areas, such as auto tech, welding, criminal justice, cosmetology. All of those require work experience and a licensure. So I'll just briefly talk about that. Okay. So they're having a lot of fun next door. Certificates that require work experience and need to be documented on the Statement of Qualifications form is going to be marketing, health science, trades and industrial education. And then the SOQ form can be found on the TEA website under the Career and Technical Education information tab. So if you do have teachers who may meet those qualifications, they would outline all of their work experience on that form. And then let's go ahead and look at, this is some good information for those of you that are working with your administration and thinking about those high need areas that we need to fill. So there is a recommendation in Texas Administrative Code and Texas Education Code about a 2-year step in pay for certificates that require the SOQ or the work experience. So thinking about your high need areas like your health science teachers, if that's a problem to fill in your district, one thing districts have done to try and help in that situation is if they have a brand new teacher starting out, then they may start them out as a year 2 teacher in lieu of starting at 0 years of experience and giving them some of that work experience built in to match their teaching experience. Did you have a question? Marketing, so it's going to be anything related to the marketing occupations. It could be marketing as in from a sales aspect. And there's lots of different things that we look at there. So if you do have a teacher who you are interested in, have them fill out a statement of qualifications, and we are always happy to review that work experience to determine eligibility, and we can definitely do that for you. But yeah, marketing with any of those, whether it's a marketing firm or sales and retail, there's lots of different ways that you can look at marketing. Mm-hmm. So this is a great consideration or great conversation if you are, again, having those high need areas, any of the trades and industrial ed. We were talking next door about welders can go and make a great deal of money welding in the field. So, but we need a welder to teach our high school students these specific skills. So how can we get them to make a transition? This is a great way for your district to offer a step in pay that may help them offset the cost of joining the education field. Speaking of marketing, so marketing is one that you could do a cert by exam if you already hold a standard certificate. So let's say you have a business and finance teacher and you want to do some crossover with marketing. If they have 2 years of work experience, they can fill out that SOQ. The school district can review it. You would send that to TEA and they would grant you, you would get test approval for that exam. So that is a cert by exam one. The work experience does need to be approved. So anyone at within our certification department is glad to look at that as well, that SOQ, to determine that eligibility. They fill that out with their district and then they can get test approval for that exam. For initial certification for marketing, they have to have the bachelor's degree from an accredited university, the 2 years of full-time wage earning experience in a marketing occupation or role, do the Educator preparation program, teach in that on that internship for that year, and then pass the appropriate exams. They have a content and, again, the PPR, and professional and pedagogy and responsibilities exam as well. So a side note, as far as your health science or your trades and industrial education certification areas, even if they're already certified, so let's say that you have a science teacher, for example, and you want them to cross over and teach some of the health science courses where they have to have a health science certificate, for example, medical terminology, they would have to go through a preparation program the way that it's written right now in code. or if they want to add a TIE area, criminal justice cosmetology, they would still have to go through a program, even if they already hold a standard certificate in the state of Texas. So that's looking at proposed changes, but as of right now, that's what the rule states. Another crossover example, I keep going back to health science because we get so many phone calls about that. Consider your athletic trainers as another possibility. That is a occupation that would qualify for a health science area as well. And then health science, they need a bachelor's. They could also have an associate degree, so associate degree or higher conferred. They need a current licensure, certification, or registration in the field that's nationally or state recognized. They need 2 years of wage earning experience in a healthcare profession. They have to complete the Educator Prep program and then teach on the assignment for 1 year on a probationary, and then they take a content exam as well as the PPR EC12 exam. So since health science is a really high needs area, talk with your table group and maybe what are some ways that we could recruit or retain our health science teachers within our school. So from the counselor perspective, maybe thinking about the way the courses are lined out or who's teaching what in regards to health science. What are some ways that we can recruit and retain our health science teachers? So let's talk for a minute or two about this and then we'll come back together. Okay, I think I'm going to move forward in the certification and talk about the work-based learning and those components and how to get into that. Yes, ma'am.
Under TIE, does that also include human services teachers like family consumer science?
So no, family consumer science is not under TIE. TIE though, it could be like hospitality, or it could be. It depends on how the teacher, what experience they have. Like if they are a non-degreed individual or they hold an associate degree and they don't qualify for family consumer science, we can work with them to see if they have work experience in hospitality. That would count, or in culinary is another example of where sometimes they'll go TIE instead of family consumer science. But usually it's just us working with the district and the candidate to see what's going to be good for both of them.
Okay, because we're starting to see, some areas where experiences start going. Science teacher took
FCS.
family consumer science test, and so I didn't know if she needed to have work-related experience.
No, she doesn't. If she has family consumer science certified, then she's good. Okay. If it's composite, it covers all of them.
Okay.
That's the only thing about FCS is that there's 3 different tests. So if they're not composite certified, so composite covers like 8 different subjects, then if they're just hospitality and tourism, that's the only courses they can be assigned to. If they're just nutrition and food science, then that's a course that they can be assigned to.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I just wanted to make sure she didn't need that work.
She doesn't.
Okay, thank you so much. That
Sure. All right, so let's go ahead and come back together. I was going to come back up here and I'll ask if anybody would like to share some ways to recruit and retain, and I mean, not just health science, but that tends to be the highest need. So I think there's a gentleman in the back that Amy's going to get the mic to.
All right, so we're from Colleen ISD, and we run through health science teachers like crazy, it seems. We always have somebody, we currently have somebody going through the Region 12 cert. We love it. So recruiting, if we just put health science positions out on our normal website channels, that does not get us very many health science teachers. What we've found tends to work is just using the network, including even parents. So this wasn't a health science position, but we even have a parent who is almost certified in math and science, which we will probably be having teach with us shortly, just because we are always having to say, you know, like anytime I'm at Scott and White or anytime at a health fair, I just bring up the conversation, hey, have you ever thought about teaching high school students? And they're like, what? Okay, weirdo. Yeah. But then they take that back, and we know that they have coffee pot conversations, and some of the people in those industries don't know that teaching is an option for them, and while it pays incredibly less, the hours are more standardized, and they have more time for families. So certain people in certain life situations could be attracted to the teaching profession. Now, as far as the retention, we don't have control over how much they're paid, although they do get a CTE stipend with us for teaching at our career center. And they do get the step up in pay. So that makes it a little more lucrative for them. But we as counselors have a lot of control over, or a lot of influence over, the climate and the culture of our campuses and our career centers, and we can influence that culture that makes it feel like, hey, this is the greatest place to be. So we can create an environment that they want to stay with. We can also be a resource that pours into them and mentors them as well. We talked about the fact that sometimes our administrators and their mentors and appraisers don't always have the amount of time that we might have to listen to their conversations and not just their complaints, but their issues and their concerns, and sometimes those are things that we can help address. We can sometimes have influence over class sizes, which is a big thing to a teacher. It's less motivating to come in and teach 35 students in a LVN 1 class as it is maybe 15 or 20. So those are just some of the ideas that we generated.
And those are perfect. Those are some great ideas in thinking about it from a counseling perspective and how you can really help that teacher. I think being aware of the class sizes, the needs of the teacher. I know in the district that I worked for previous to the service center, the counselors even did walkthroughs in the CTE classes and kind of notated in the practicum courses and the different classes to kind of see what is happening in the classes, what skills are taught. And so when they are promoting their programs and stuff, it did help them to see that from the teacher perspective. So I think being a listening ear and trying to see and help them work through any problems that they may encounter or make things a little bit easier, transition is a great idea. Those were some really great ideas that you generated. Anyone else have anything before we? Okay, we're going to talk about some specific CTE certification topics really quick before we wrap up. So CTE and core academic credit. If we look at the list that's up here on the screen, we have the science, the math, the English, and fine arts. So these are courses that have to count, that cannot be offered just simply as electives, that count for that core academic credit. So the presentation is on your, so you guys can have this listing. But just thinking about from the credit perspective, what these classes are, and then I'm going to kind of go down. So these courses, again, cannot be offered simply as an elective. Teachers who are not certified in CTE and wish to teach one of the CTE courses for math, science, fine arts, or English must complete the CTE 101 course. And that's done through the Texas Gateway, and I'll show you that in just a second. So in addition to that required teaching training, you see the CTE course listed there and that they meet the requirements for those specific areas. And then we'll show you where do we find that required teacher training. So this is the statement taken from the teacher assignment chart. So all teachers assigned to these courses shall participate in the Texas Education Agency or TEA approved training prior to teaching the course. This was effective the 2013-14 school year. On the teacher assignment chart, you will see, for example, Advanced Animal Science has the 2 next to it, And then at the bottom, it has the disclaimer, which is what I just read through. So where do we find that training? That is going to be on this system right here. So if you have a teacher that needs to do that CTE 101 or one of the other ones mentioned, this is the Texas Gateway. And as my colleague next door was talking about, it's very user-friendly. It's easy for them to navigate through and complete those requirements so that they're able to do that. So if you need to direct anybody in that direction for Texas Gateway to meet those requirements, this is where they would locate that. In addition, the question was brought up about work-based learning. So for all career prep teachers and practicum courses, you have to ensure that the school district is responsible for ensuring that each teacher assigned to the course has completed appropriate training in state and federal requirements regarding work-based learning and safety. So there's two avenues that you can get that work-based learning training done. You can contact your local ESC for training dates. I know at Region 13 we offer them periodically in the fall and the spring. And then there's also a great online course that meets the requirement. It's through teawbltraining.org, and the teacher who is assigned to that class or those career prep or the practicum classes can take the online training course. And really the reasoning behind that is so that they learn the accountability piece. There's a lot of paperwork and things that are involved with the practicum courses that needs to be on file and taken care of any time that a teacher is assigned to that. So it goes over some of the attendance accounting handbook requirements, and then it will teach the teacher about all the safety and paperwork and everything required. So you can help your teachers get that training meeting one of those ways, either a face-to-face training at your local education service center or through the online course. Did that help answer your question about? Okay. And that doesn't have to be done every single year. It's really just recommended. The main update would be with the student attendance accounting handbook. So if you're familiarized with that, that could just be a brush up on that training, not specifically doing the entire training again. We only have a few more minutes, so does anybody have any specific questions in regards to teacher certification? I know we went through things a little bit faster. But everything on the presentation that's linked in there you can have direct access to. But anybody have any questions that you would like to ask us about? Okay. Uh-huh. No. So that's a class that cannot be offered just as a CTE course. It has to be offered for science credit. That's on that list. So anything that's on that list, those cannot be offered just as an elective or CTE class. It has to be offered for that core credit. That was last year. Uh-huh.
When you were showing the health science requirements, what is the connection between the certification that the potential teacher holds in the course that they're going to teach? Because sometimes I know there's some weird relationships, like we have a respiratory therapist teaching phlebotomy. And I know that for our CNA program, they wanted someone who had experience in either a nursing home or home health care, at least 2 years of experience with geriatric health care.
So with health science, it is a little tricky. So we do try to match up the work experience. Now, the CNA program, because that also goes through the DADS organization, they have specific requirements, and one of their requirements, if you have a CNA program, is that they do have that nursing home work experience. So that's not really specific to us. That's specific to the DADS and the Texas organization in that regard. But most of the time, I would say with health science, the occupations will cross over. It is good for farm tech to line them up with the pharmacology, and things like that, but it may not always work out. in that regard. As far as our end, when I talk with candidates who are certified in respiratory therapy, let's say, I advise them when you're out there interviewing with school districts, have that conversation about what courses you're teaching. If you're on the hiring end of it, maybe talking to that teacher in the interview or the candidate who's interviewing about the different courses, showing them kind of what is taught in the classes, I think is very helpful so that they kind of get that background knowledge, because healthcare can be very specific in some regards. So maybe just making sure that the administrator or you're in on that conversation, that they're aware of what the content looks like and if they feel comfortable teaching that content. That's kind of the conversations that I have with candidates, is asking them to ask those questions in an interview. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you guys for your time. We do have some business cards if you have specific questions or anything. We also do have a counseling specialist at Region 13, Gina Helton, who can also help with lots of questions that may be outside of the realm of CTE that she would be happy to help with. Thank you.
Okay, so let's give Erika and Amy a hand. They did a great job for us in presenting this morning on certification, and that can be pretty tricky. I want to go back to the question a minute ago about advanced animal science, just as an example. And I think you saw on Erika's presentation where advanced animal science is one of those 9 courses in CTE that has the specific content training requirement that is part of the Texas Gateway. And so any teacher, regardless of their certification, agriculture teacher or a science teacher that's going to teach advanced animal science, they do have to go through that training. And in most cases, there's one additional Texas Gateway course depending on their certification area that they're required to go through. Those type of things can be very, very tricky as you're thinking about it. So again, don't be afraid. If you need that information, don't be afraid to call and ask us that, or encourage your administrator to call and ask us those questions. We get those several times a day usually. That's pretty common stuff. Again, things like the work-based learning, if you read that rule, it really basically says the district is responsible for providing certain training for a teacher, and that's a pretty powerful statement. That indicates to me that the district's really liable for making sure that that teacher has been properly trained. So that's a pretty powerful statement. There are lots of ins and outs when it comes to career and technical education teacher certification, and call on some of our experts like Erika and Amy, or maybe the ESC people in your region are all on that, and certainly those of us at TEA who work both in certification and in career and technical education, we deal with those questions pretty often. So if you've got questions maybe that didn't get answered, be sure that you do that. Okay, I have about 10:20. We're going to take a 30-minute break, and see, I'm a generous person. I'm going to give you 30 minutes. And during that 30 minutes, however, be sure that you go up and check out. If you have not already done that, check out the hotel. Checkout time is 11 a.m., and so we would appreciate it if you would take care of that during this 30-minute break. We will meet back here at 10 minutes until 11 and continue with our next segment. So enjoy your break.